Hello and welcome to Stronger Voices Together, brought to you by John Lyon's charity. A podcast dedicated to exploring the diverse, vibrant world of disability and inclusion. The charity's funding strives to support all children and young people through education, including those with learning and access needs, championing their right to access the same opportunities as anyone else. I'm your host, Lucy Edwards, blind broadcaster, content creator and disability activist, and I'm delighted to be on this journey with you. For those of you listening to this podcast and not watching, I'm joined by my gorgeous guide dog, Miss Molly, at my feet. My audio description is that I've got a forest green dress on. It's velour in feel and touch, and I'm wearing a nude lipstick and coral eyeshadow. For many young people in the UK, turning 18 marks a significant milestone. However, for many young people with disabilities, it's a daunting transition into a world with limited opportunities for furthering your education, gaining necessary skills, or embarking upon a career. According to the House of Commons Library, in January to March 2023, 342,000 working-age disabled people were unemployed in the UK. Many young people with disabilities have a strong drive and desire to work, with so much untapped potential. We want to work with organisations to bridge this gap to ensure disabled people looking for work are not overlooked. Join us as we embark on a journey to advocate for systemic change, challenge perceptions, and carve out a path towards a future where everyone, regardless of ability, has equal access to fulfilling career opportunities. I'm joined today by Shardonnay Roseman, Office Assistant at John Lyon's charity, and Jack Taylor, Head of Fundraising and Communications at Pursuing Independent Paths, or PIP, which is a charity that empowers young adults with a learning disability or autism to achieve their ambitions. Hello, both of you.
Hi, Liz.
I hope you're doing okay. I always love to start the podcast with a quick audio description, your pronouns, and a bit about what you do. So Shardonnay, take it away.
I have 3 jobs. I'm an office assistant at John Lyon's. I'm the student council committee leader at PIP, and I'm also work in hospitality as a waitress at a cafe.
Lovely. And what do you look like, Shardonnay, for all of our visually impaired friends?
I have green jeans. I have brown boots with material that is shiny and the John Lyon's t-shirt.
Lovely. And Jack, what about yourself?
So I am about 6 foot tall with brown hair, desperately in need of a haircut, wearing a maroony red overshirt, jeans and scuffed Doc Martens. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm Head of Fundraising and Comms at Pursuing Independent Paths.
Thank you. And just a bit more about what you do at PIP, because I know that just before we turned on the camera, we were chatting about it. So what do you do there and why did it start?
So PIP was established 40 years ago now, yes.
Yeah, it will be 40 years.
Oh, wow.
Hang on, Shardonnay. I was uncertain there, you weren't. So PIP was founded by parents of adults with learning disabilities through the absence of local provision. We work to support adults with LD to achieve self-defined goals. So for someone like Shardonnay, that has always been a job. There was no doubt of that. And her next one is moving out. But certainly in the context of some of our students, it can be confidence, making friends. And we have our pathways, employment, where Shardonnay is one of our case studies, of course. But we have independent living skills, health and well-being, and creative performing arts. But yeah, PIP is fundamentally at its core an organisation that tries to support adults with LD be who they want to be.
Yeah.
And
you see the whole person by the sounds of it.
Yeah,
not
we
just...
we are really lucky there. And it's with real hard work as well.
And Chardonnay, what do you do at work? What do you do as an office assistant?
I'm in charge of ordering stuff for the office, from coffees to teas. And then during summertime, I did my first John Lyon visits to all different boroughs that John Lyon fund. It was very good to see all the projects they fund. And that one school was a disability school, which brought tears to my eyes because I've never been to a disability school.
Lovely. And Chardonnay, how did you get involved with John Lyon's charity? What is your career path so far?
That was done through PIP. John Lyon's charity offered me an internship, which I accepted.
Oh, nice. And how did you first kind of get started with PIP? Like, what was your first task and role?
My first role at PIP was being a student rep, which was about representing all the students, what their needs and what they would like at.
Lovely.
And then we did a bit of Fruitful.
Oh, yes, and Fruitful. So Fruitful is our social enterprise juicing market where I was a trainee and now I've graduated from Fruitful.
Oh, okay, cool. Amazing. And what would you say are the career barriers that are facing young people at the age of 18 at the minute that you face with them?
I think there's twofold challenges. The first is that kind of, if we consider mainstream educational schooling, how that is designed to really suit the entire spectrum of young people. And that can mean that people don't get the support they need in school settings. If I think back to school, I had an intense amount of support. And now my partner, who is a teacher, says that would be a pipe dream for so many young people. So they often leave school with not having had the amount of support that's appropriate. And then I think the second challenge can be the attitudes of employers, recognising that for so many people, that first job where you gain your first experience is so difficult to get. That's why the John Lyons internship for Shardonnay is incredible. That's why we run Fruitful, because it gives paid work experience for students. And I think it is kind of that thing of, if you're not able to go into the workplace, perhaps with an appropriate skills base or an appropriate experience base, starting careers is impossible.
Would you say that, Chardonnay, that mainstream school didn't really offer you that much support with your career? You're happy to have PIP in your life?
The school I went to did not have anything at all, and obviously being autistic, they didn't have any training or any department. So once I left school, I found PIP, which has been the...
Yeah, okay. And what would you say that schools could do better? You know, what are the main things about PIP that have helped you kind of get on your career journey so far?
PIP has got the support system that schools should have now.
So give me a few things that you've done at PIP. Have you written a CV together?
I've got a CV. I passed my food hygiene training, which I now do juicing at home during lockdown. I've also come up with different juicing and smoothie recipes, as well as that.
Nice.
Fruitful's lovely because it teaches customer service, cash handling,
till training as well.
Yeah. And what about you, Jack? What do you primarily kind of teach at PIP?
So we've got 4 pathways, which are similar to kind of subject levels at school. Shardonnay is one of our best graduates from our employment pathway. And then we have creative performing arts, health and wellbeing, and independent living skills. Designing across those 4 areas, aligned to students' interest, they should get out of that what they want for their goals in life.
Shardonnay, tell us a bit more about how you got into your current role.
That I will pass to Jack.
So Shardonnay had been at PIP for a few years, and PIP had been very grateful for the John Lyons employment grants that we'd received over the years that had allowed us to pay for an employment coordinator. That meant when John Lyons had launched a specific role for young adults of LD to get into the charity sector, that PIP had the support structures in place, particularly through Zoo, our employment coach at the time, to support Shardonnay and other candidates from PIP to apply for the role. And I think it's a real open-mindedness from John Lyons. And I think what was great was how the team was so open to understanding how the process could be structured and also how support packages could look like. And then ultimately it was Shardonnay who did the hard work in the run-up and the interview, so we can't claim any credit for that. I think you can claim the credit now, Shardonnay.
I definitely can. I'm with them today.
Yeah, definitely. And how did Zoo help you, Shardonnay?
She helped me by travelling with me to the John Lyons office, and she stayed with me for a while, a very long while, until I got the hang of things like John Lyons, because I've never done office work like that before.
Yeah.
Thanks to John Lyons and Sue.
Does it help if she kind of chats to you about interview process or things that you are kind of needing to know or needing to expect from a role when you first go in?
When I first got to John Lyons, there was a dog. It was great, but I was scared of dogs. So in my next meeting with John Lyons, I told him that if I could be warned about dogs, and now me and Maple friends.
Oh, lovely. So is Maple the dog in the office?
Dog. Flo's dog.
So from what you guys are describing, without PIP as an organisation, you know, you'd be in real trouble as a disabled person going into the world of work because it'd be quite daunting. Do you think that's why, I'll open it up to both of you, that the mainstream schools and there's an unemployment gap for disabled people and children going into the world of work and teenagers? I think, I don't know, you know, we heard that stat, didn't we, at the top of the podcast? A lot of disabled people are unemployed. Do we feel like because there isn't this pathway that there's a gap here? Both of you.
Taking from my experience, and I said if it wasn't for Pip and Sue, who was the job coach at the time, I don't think I would have a job today at Pip or in hospitality or doing this podcast today. So, yeah.
Wow. What about you, Jack?
Yeah, I think it is difficult, kind of, if I think about the employment support that was offered to me, even as a teenager, with my autism, it definitely wasn't appropriate. And I think it's not to say I don't think the staff or there's not a desire in mainstream education, but there is obviously a funding crisis in schools. But I think it's also that thing of recognising within social care, the kind of concentrated support PIP can offer, even now is still special. We have a wait list of over 50 students waiting to join from 80 places. Shardonnay come in and thrived, and you've been able to cut your days at PIP to just 1 day a week. And but it is something of kind of, particularly if we think about how the structure is, because if you are in that 18 to 25 bracket, you might be able to transition into college, but even then they can be struggling to be appropriate, and then you are kind of course barred. After that point, you are left to it, so to speak, unless you qualify for perhaps some job coaching for the job centre, which flipping a coin typically has better odds. So it's an immense challenge.
What does being appropriate mean then to both of you? I mean, I know for my own access needs, every disabled person is different, but you know, for my own access needs, I have like a 10-page document of like everything that I could possibly want an employer to kind of do for me. What does that mean for you as individuals? Like, do you have that kind of like 10-page document, or do you have something else that you give to employers?
I give them my CV because that's the main important thing for employers, to see the experience you've had as well. And then you go on to the interviews, and from interviews, everyone is different if you pass or if you fail.
Good to know, Shardonnay. Do you think that it's good to talk to employers about your disability in that interview then?
I definitely did, with the help of Zoo, because she came with me to my interviews, which helped a lot. I don't think I would have coped alone.
Yeah.
But like, is that thing of interviews, even in a best case scenario, are a skill that most people perhaps will hopefully do 12, 15 times a month. Like if you think about, even if you change job every couple of years, and trying to keep that skill up to date and well practiced, particularly for many of our students, where if you think of the last 3 to 4 years of just societal change, with online interviews being much more common, if you struggle to read body language like I do, then you're struggling immensely on a digital platform. And I think one of the things that I think PIP does that's quite special, and this is why John Lyon's scheme for at Shardonnay was successful and is special, and why this podcast is so vital, is creating perhaps not roles that are kind of allocated towards it, but creating processes as part of your recruitment that are from the get-go designed to be in partnership with candidates so that you can discuss access needs. Because it can be as simple as, if you are suffering from autism and you struggle to perhaps advocate for yourself, which can be a massive issue for everyone, having the self-confidence to put yourself forward during an interview process and say, I need this, without having the fear that that might cost you the role, is, I don't have it, and to expect everyone else to have it is too much as well.
I hear you, and I think we're talking about a kind of in that interview process, obviously we're having to advocate for ourselves, but whose responsibility do you think it is within the workplace or outside of work to help people with disabilities in their career?
I think it's down to each company, because each company has their rules and guidelines of how disability people should be treated. For me, it wasn't great, but that didn't stop me from applying for jobs as well.
What about you, Jack?
I'm exactly the same. I think it is, if you're unable as a company or organisation to reflect society at large in your workforce, you have failed. And it's something which it shocks me a little bit, even in the charity world. So I'm very forthright with candidates. I say that we have senior managers in the organisation, like myself, who have accommodations. That's what we believe in as an organisation. We can't support adults with learning disabilities or neurodiversity without reflecting that in our staff base as well, for that kind of self-experience base. But sadly, that's not reflective of other organisations. And I think there is, for organisations, that kind of societal obligation. But I think the other side of that is what you're missing if you don't have that diversity in your organisation. And then part of the challenge as well is, I think sometimes we've had other students who have struggled once management has changed, or support structures, workplace bullying is common, or people who kind of see individuals as a burden or extra work.
Oh, I hate that word.
A little bit. The language I would use is not appropriate for podcast settings. But certainly for me, it's kind of that thing of, no, it's not, because that is a limited view of just what diversity can bring. And we know more diverse workspaces work better. You get a better representation of views, and also, more importantly, you are able to use those reference points in the work as it happens.
Mm-hmm. And even if you don't have a disability, we all have needs in the workplace. We all have specific things to tell our colleagues via email or different ways of working. It doesn't necessarily always have to just be pointed at kind of the disabled folk within these organisations to prove that we're resilient. We can be like, well, no, we have all of these amazing qualities, and this is how we work best. But I think in a lovely way, I feel like, I don't know whether you two feel like this, but my disability has given me the freedom to really know who I am, and understand like what I really need, because it's made me ask myself those questions. What do you think, Jack? Have you got a scenario that you've had to advocate for yourself?
I think the one that comes to mind immediately was when I joined a graduate scheme. I had to sit through 10 individual one-day courses of kind of compulsory training because I'd declared a disability. It was rude and insulting. Like, one of the courses was how to speak to others like a human. And it was like, I'm 22 years old, I've kind of got 2 degrees and I've reached this point. If I wasn't capable of that, I wouldn't be in this room. Unless I'm the token hire, then let's have that much more awkward conversation. But I think for that, you have to advocate. And I think it is, that self-advocacy point is so important. And I'm quite bolshy with it, so Chardonnay. We both know what we like.
I used to do it as a job, and now I want to go back in and do it because
I feel like you have to be. And then also on a CV or on an application, do you put that you have a disability or do you not? The age-old question.
I think it's important for the employers to know what they're dealing with. Like John Lyons, they accepted me for who I am.
What about you, Jack?
I do disclose it, I think, because I feel confident expressing not only what I need, but how also it has assets that come with it. But I think there is a fundamental challenge with kind of that level of expected vulnerability as part of an application. It's already kind of can be an intrusive process. It can already be quite a time-sensitive process as well. But you are kind of that process of having to disclose so much of it, particularly can often just be an inbox versus a person. I can find that really uncomfortable.
Yeah. And Jack, what support is available for employers to help people with learning and access needs to fulfil their roles?
So it is very scenario dependent, but I think one of the things that I would always recommend employers to do is to look at their staff base. Whenever a PIP student goes to a workplace, what surprises me is how many staff disclose that someone in their family or their friendship group or someone who has a disability. And fundamentally, if you're looking to create a supportive network, it can't be one person, it has to be a dozen plus, it has to be the whole team. And so looking to that team at the point of trying to put those support structures in place, I think is the best place to start.
And to both of you then, what do you think needs to change to help bridge the disability employability gap?
I think it should be the law for every company to at least give disability people a chance. Because you'll be surprised what we can do. Like for me at John Lyons, doing very well, so I've heard.
And what do you think, Jack?
I think expanding on Chardonnay's point, like disability confident employment schemes where disabled candidates are guaranteed interviews and more detailed feedback is really important. And I think one of the things I would say that is particularly vital is creating well-funded, well-established support networks. Fundamentally, students like at PIP or other places do need help. We think it takes around 2 to 3 weeks, kind of 10 to 15 days of job coaching to get someone into a role. And that doesn't come for free, and that definitely doesn't come without deliberate effort by local authorities and regional governments and national governments. And one of the challenges we face as an organisation is kind of we are local authority funded to provide the support we offer.
So what kind of working environment best supports someone with learning and access needs? Is it more like a long-term placement or is it a short-term placement? What do you think, Shardonnay? What's best for you?
For hospitality, I've been doing hospitality for many years, but now I need a change, just a senior change.
But I think you've benefited, Shardonnay, from John Lyons.
I really have. I might pursue office work now.
But it's a long-term contract for Shardonnay, isn't it? Is it 12 months?
Yes, I finish in June.
And I think that's something which is so vital, kind of particularly if you've had the challenges or you're scared of your first job or something, knowing it's somewhere for a longer term is so beneficial. But for those first roles, certainly I think a medium term, at least 6 months placement is so vital because it is not only it's an experience of kind of getting into a role and finding what to do and how to learn how to do it. There's a certain amount that individuals can only really express themselves when they're comfortable, and that takes time.
Yeah, it takes time to talk to an employer about your access needs and really kind of bed into the role. I remember my first day at the BBC, like walking around the corridors in different, you know, with my old guide dog, Miss Olga, and I was scared. I was like, oh, how do I get to my desk? You know, we have those like bedding in kind of queries as disabled folk that kind of able-bodied people don't necessarily think about. So I think if it is shorter term placements, it is a bit more, you feel like you're moving on quicker, don't you?
And I think an important part there is often for many adults with learning disabilities or something, they have the cap on the number of hours they can work to be continue their eligibility for benefits. So when you are capped at 12, 15 hours of work, if you're talking about a 3-month placement, because you're part-time, you've actually only been there 5-6 weeks as a full-time equivalent. So that length of placement allows, particularly for part-time work, to tackle all those challenges you've just discussed and so many others as well.
Shardonnay, what advice have you got for the young people looking for a job?
That it is doable and don't give up, because many people told me I couldn't do it, but I'm here today. And they're out there doing, I don't know. So yeah, it's doable. Well, so just have a bit of patience. Yeah, so when you climb the Mount Everest mountain, when you get to the top, you've reached your goal.
But you can trip up on the way.
Yeah, do we trip up on rocks on the way? Because I definitely do.
But that doesn't mean you have to stop halfway. Keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, I always say you're defined on how you get up from that rock fall. I love the metaphor. It depends on how you get up. You're defined on how you get up.
It's like the Olympics, when you go for the gold's the top.
I think there's a good metaphor, which is one of the first things they teach in horse riding school is how to fall safely and how to get back up quickly. They don't focus on how to ride the horse at the start. And it's true, because it's kind of learning how to fail and making sure, or learning how to stumble and how to carry on is something which Shardonnay shows in abundance. And for any young people out there thinking they want this, that's it.
Yep, we fail and we get back up.
That was me.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about one of the failures and how you got back up from it, Shardonnay?
Well, my whole life I got diagnosed at 18. It took the people a while to diagnose me. Yeah. I mean, it should have not taken them 18 years. So, but since then, I said it's been fun.
Yeah.
John Lyons, Pip, and fruitful.
So since you had a diagnosis, are you saying that you feel like you've had wings or...?
Yeah, like I got the gold.
You got the gold. You got to the top of the mountain. Love it.
And I think it's something there which is kind of about that mindset and everything. Kind of, if you are someone with a learning disability, you are so much more likely as well to suffer from poor mental health. I left university, had been knocked back from graduate scheme after graduate scheme, and I suffered from really severe depression and everything, and it was absolutely a nightmare. And we're really lucky at PIP. We've got a brilliant support network for each other. And
thanks to the staff, everyone for PIP staff, putting in the hours and getting new PIP staff too.
Amazing. Amazing. And okay, last question. If you could say one key thing to all of the employers out there that are listening to this podcast about hiring a person with a disability, what is the one thing you would say, the most important thing? Putting you both on the spot. Who wants to go first?
I don't want to go.
Okay, go on.
Say that you have to give us a chance, just like John Lyons gave me a chance. And I hope that carries on.
Thank you, Shardonnay. Jack?
Frustratingly, I'm going to copy Chardonnay's point. It is that thing of just kind of take the leap. You know it's the right thing to do, and also fundamentally, you'll just be surprised. You'll just be annoyed you didn't do it sooner. And I think it's that thing of perhaps this panel is a fantastic example of what can be done. And if an employer wants to limit themselves and not jump in, you do you, but we'll carry on doing our thing.
You do you. And we'll do us.
That's bang
But
on.
we're resilient, we're amazing, and we don't need to tell people why we're so brilliant. We just are. We've got so many different amazing qualities. It's just people wanting to harness them or not, and they can. or okay, next. Thank you, next. But thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate both of your time.
Thank you, Lucy, for that.
No worries. And stay tuned for part 2, back after this testimonial.
John Lyon's charity recently visited the trainees at Fair Shot Cafe in Covent Garden. Here is what they had to say.
My name is Ellis, but I am 19 years old. Favorite things working at First Shot, it was just a till.
A till?
Yeah.
Why is that your favourite station?
Because I like saying, next please. Some people get a bit hard to get a job, but they'll try their best.
Why do you think it's hard for them to get a job?
Because it's just a bit difficult.
If you could do any job in the world,
Yeah.
what job would that be?
Just work in the shisha.
In a shisha bar?
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, can you tell me your name?
Katie,
And how old are you?
24. I do working here. I make rent, I make playground, and I do all sorts of other stuff. Help other people, help my friends, help my work colleague, and help my teammates.
What is your dream job?
It's death. Because I do cooking, I help my mum cook and make all sorts of nice food and meals.
What have you learned about Katie while being at Fair Shop?
I'm just feeling more confident growing up than I was now growing up. And I'm 24 and I'm a bit older. And I just felt really confident in myself with doing it myself.
My name is Mahid.
And how old are you?
I am 24. I would say my favorite drink is tomato hot chocolate. My favorite thing is meeting new people. You have to gain different skills and qualities. My favorite station is Till Station.
Why?
Because I get to work with customers. When I started,
Yeah.
I didn't travel on my own. Now I can. Be confident in yourself. It helps you out because when you are confident, you gain more experience sometimes.
My name is Anna.
And how old are you?
I am 23. At Fair Shop, I learned it's to make station, floater and till. The job is good.
The job is in. Agreed.
After Fair Shop, I learned to do work in a coffee shop. Makes feel happy
What else?
and makes feel exciting, confidence, independent, skills.
John Lyon's charity ran a survey recently which revealed 24% of decision makers in the UK do not offer career opportunities to young people who are deaf, disabled or neurodivergent, with 34% unsure if they offer career opportunities at their company. I feel so inspired by that testimonial to just share a bit about my career experience so far. Oh, and also talking to Shardonnay and Jack, it was so, so lovely just to be in a room with just such like-minded humans. So I actually started to think about my career quite seriously because I wanted to go to university. And then I kind of went to law school and thought, oh, I'm thinking about being blind now. This is all, overcoming me. And I think then I kind of realised, maybe that was a sighted Lucy dream. So I actually dropped out of law school, which I'm actually really proud to say that, I'm so happy that I know myself so well that I was able to kind of think about my decisions back then. And then I actually applied for an apprenticeship scheme at the BBC. And the first one I didn't actually get, but I stayed in touch with the lady. And then I became a BBC journalist the year after because I just kept researching all about the news and current affairs and different things. So yeah, there's loads of ups and downs, but now I'm a presenter, freelance, and I have my own limited company. But I love that I failed in that process. I love that I've got back up again. And I really do agree with Jack and Shardonnay when they say like it really is about those failures and getting back up from those failures that really define your path. So I'm now joined by Bianca Tavella, founder and CEO of Fair Shot Cafe, and John McCafferty, CEO of Community Focus, to help me understand why this is and how we can change it. Hello, everybody.
Hi, so nice to be here.
Nice to be here with you guys. Bianca, can we start with you? What are your pronouns? What is your audio description? And tell me a bit more about what you do.
Sure, so my pronouns are she, her. Audio description, I've got brown hair, brown eyes, I'd say average height, and I'm wearing a grey turtleneck, a black cardigan, black trousers and black boots. And in terms of what I do, I am the founder and CEO of Fair Shot. We are a registered charity and we are based in Covent Garden. We run 2 programs. The first one is a supported internship program for people with learning disabilities. They're aged 16 to 25. And we take 15 every year as work experience in our cafe. And then afterwards, we help find them a job afterwards. And we've helped 36 adults so far. And then in September, we're going into our 4th cohort, which is really exciting.
Brilliant. And John, what about you? What's your pronouns, your audio description, and a bit more about what you do?
So my pronouns are he and him. My audio description is I have dark brown hair, a navy blue jumper, red trousers and brown trainers. I'm the Chief Executive of Community Focus Inclusive Arts. We're an independent accessible arts centre based in the London Borough of Barnet. We have 3 main programmes. Short Breaks is for 10 to 18-year-olds with physical and sensory impairments. Our Articulate programme is for 16 to 30-year-olds with additional needs. And our in-house programme is predominantly for adults with learning disabilities. And we've been established since 1978.
Brilliant. And what did you both think about the testimonial video we listened to?
It made me really proud that the 4 of them are trainees of the Fair Shot program in the cafe. And like we speak on a daily basis, obviously, but I think there's little nuggets of wisdom that kind of come out of them. And I was shocked by some of the stuff that they said. And sometimes I think because it's like 6 to 7 months into the program now. So I think they're kind of really starting to understand what they actually want to do instead of what they thought they wanted to do before.
I think the variation in characters, but also their needs is important as well, that they also had kind of specific ideas as to what they were aspiring to be and become and what their abilities were as well. So I think having that capacity to know your value and your worth, but also what your aspirations are is really important.
Mm-hmm. And Bianca, Fair Shot Cafe opened in December 2021 and has gone from strength to strength in a very short amount of time, relatively. What gap had you identified that made you open this charity to support people with disabilities into employment?
I think there were a lot of various gaps. I think the one that was kind of screaming the most was the fact that there wasn't a lot of real life work experience out there for people with learning disabilities available. Even if it was kind of disguised as real life work experience, it wasn't exactly in positions that people with learning disabilities actually wanted to do, especially young adults. So that was kind of the first major one. I think the next one is, I think there are supported internship programs out there. We're not the first one, but I think the fact that I very much created the program with the aim that I really wanted it to be the last stepping stone towards mainstream employment. And it's not just another program for them to go into another program and kind of carry on that quite vicious cycle. So we have an in-house employment program where we have found 100% of our graduates a job. And I think that's kind of what sets us apart. And then the third one is that I think that even if maybe an employer or a company or a corporate wants to hire someone with a learning disability or any sort of disability, I think even if they want to do it, they don't really know how.
Yeah, I mean, you really did point out there, people don't know, employers don't know. How do you support those graduates that go on from Fair Shot Cafe into their employment. You don't know what you don't know, right? I always say I know nothing about disability until I became a disabled person myself. So what are your tips?
I think for us, I think the way that we do things is quite unique. We don't do the career fairs. We don't train our graduates in interview skills or CV building. So first of all is getting to know the individual. And then once we start building the relationship with the employer, and it's someone that we vet. So we not only meet all the managers, we meet all the team. If it's an employer with various different chains, then we go and visit every single chain, because every different chain has a different vibe, a different culture, different managers. And then we start the job carving process. So that's where it's not the fact that the employer is coming to us saying, oh, look, we're looking for a chef or a commis chef or a cafe assistant. They're saying, okay, we want to become an inclusive employer. And then we say, okay, we actually think that this would be great for Katie or for Ella. And then we start creating a role that's specifically created for Katie. So for her gifts and abilities, and that also benefits the employer at the same time. Before the trainee then starts with the employer, we also then train the employer.
And John, can you tell us about any barriers that you may have come across in your career and how this has impacted your approach as an employer?
So I'm kind of seen it from both sides of the fence, really. I mean, I started as a student at Community Focus back in 2007. And kind of went through the levels or the chain of command, really, from a volunteer to a trustee to chairman, and then got roped into being CEO. So I think in terms of barriers for myself as a disabled person, I think a lack of shared knowledge was one of the things that I noticed early on, but this was over a decade ago. I think now that a lot of organisations work in partnership with each other. Our charity works with a number of organisations within the borough, and I think in terms of assisting students to progress and to learn and to experience voluntary roles and job roles, you need at least kind of a year's funding to do anything consistent, whether that's in a group environment of a number of students or individual apprenticeships as well.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we can't help it but bring our kind of unique ability and disability into a role. What are the main key pointers that you would say? Because I know that you mentioned that Fair Shot, you support them right up to the point where they're going into their role, and then you continue to. Do you feel like, John, you have had kind of like inspiration from the people who have supported you, and then that's why you want to support others? Or?
Massively. I think in terms of senior staff members, whether it's trustees or outside staff members from other organisations who have that experience and can pass on that knowledge, is really vital. I used to work for another inclusive organisation for 7 years, and that CEO, I learned a lot from her and still do to this day. So I keep in contact with her and other senior staff members. I think sharing knowledge is a key factor in terms of learning and progressing and developing ideas and opportunities for individuals and passing on that knowledge. I think it never stops.
Yeah, definitely. Every day is a learning day. Okay, so I'm going to open this up to both of you. What stops organisations employing people with disabilities, do you think?
Funding is a massive issue in terms of how they can employ someone for a long-term opportunity, but also in terms of awareness. I think some employers are scared to bring on disabled staff members without seeing the positives and seeing it as a negative first, as to the potential risks that can occur in terms of health and safety and in terms of additional policies that they might have to bring into place.
I think health and safety is a big one, isn't it? Because I remember when I was at school, they'd be like, oh, watch the hob. And I'm like, don't worry, guys, I cook all the time at home, So, what are those kind of challenges health and safety wise? Because I've been given some long forms over my time. How do we overcome that, though? I mean, with Fair Shot, I'm sure there's a lot of kind of discussion around cafe safety with employees, is there, I presume?
I think what people assume isn't necessarily then the case. I think at the end of the day, they're just scared. And I think being scared is based on the fact that they're uneducated, and it's not even their fault, to be honest. Like, it's what we were saying before, like, you don't know what you don't know. And I think that's what's so incredible about the fact that we are a cafe. Like, we're incentivizing these positive experiences and exposure to the public, to people with learning disabilities. And I think in terms of how do we make employers excited about hiring someone, becoming an inclusive employer? And I think at the end of the day, they're an expert in that specific field, and you can't expect them to know everything. So I think let us be experts on what we're experts in, and let us support you. And I think that is the best way to bring about sustainable change as well, and not just ticking that box, I think.
Can we expect employers to do the kind of work that you guys do in-house?
I think both. I think there's two different conversations to have. I think we need to talk about the present, and then we need to talk about the future that we would like to get to. And I think people sometimes jump a step ahead and think we're already there, let's already expect this. But I think it's too soon. Like, we're only just about talking about awareness, and people are just about realizing that they need to do this, and they're just waking up to it. So I think in the interim, I think the partnerships and kind of teaching them and showing them how to do it, because I think that comes from experience.
Yeah. Do you feel like that, John?
Specialisation is important. I think you have to work on your strengths, and I think if you haven't got the skills in-house, then you have to bring someone in. If it's on a temporary contract, I myself, we've just hired a HR specialist starting tomorrow, actually, and that's through funding through Department of Work and Pensions, so I get access to work funding. So if it wasn't for me being disabled, we wouldn't be able to employ this person to work as part of my role, to assist me in developing our 42 policies I think we have at the moment, which is quite excessive, but they all kind of have their place. So I think that's one plus in terms of being a disabled employee, that there is funding from central government out there if you know how to find it and how to use it effectively.
Definitely. And how would you feel that you, on a day-to-day basis, use access to work then as an employee and employer?
I've only recently got up to 5 days a week, and only more recently I've found out that if I went up to 5 days a week, I could then have a job aid to do up to 20% of my role. So for me, it's kind of doing 4 days a week, employing someone, but getting paid 5 days a week. So it's a win-win for me. It's a win-win for the organisation, getting specialist staff in to support me as chief exec, and a win-win all round.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, this is for both of you. How do you ensure that your recruitment processes are inclusive?
I think we're actually struggling with that, to be honest. I think when our beneficiaries have learning disabilities, I think we very much hire people. We base it on experience more than anything. But I think it's just about putting it in the right kind of pools and going to, if you're not getting the applicants that you think are inclusive enough, then reaching out to different groups to make sure that you have a representative pool of candidates. But yeah, I'd love to hear what.
Close to half of our trustees have an impairment or a disability in some shape or form. So they're effectively my bosses as I'm chief exec. So we've always had kind of disability in mind, kind of that trickle-down effect. And I think that is required in order to advance with what is needed beyond that. So the wider realm of disabilities and support that's needed throughout society has to come from that mixture of different levels of authority. So I think having those conversations, no matter where you are in the pecking order, I suppose, and having honest conversations about what is required and what is needed, and not being scared to confront authority figures, I think is important.
Yeah, and from your experiences, is it better to offer a fixed term contract or just offer, a more shorter term contract to people with disabilities?
I definitely think I think it's fixed term or just permanent contract is the best for all of our graduates that we found a job, it's just been a normal contract, and they have a 3-month probation period. And I don't think there is such a thing as if you offer everyone a permanent one, then there's not going to be any jobs left. I think it's just a case of the amount of companies that are out there, and they can do that, and why not? I think they need the security and the safety to know that, you know, this is long term, and, you know, we've created this role, and we do kind of create that role with the employers with that intention, and the trainees very much know that. And just like Fair Shot was the safest place for them, they need to know that they're also entering this safe and supportive place that is for the long term, that then when they want to move on, then they can, you know.
I think the amount of work that goes into creating roles, it's only fair that it's a long-term position. I think it kind of goes with funding as well, that if you are getting annual funding that's not multi-year, then it's a lot. It just takes a lot more work to find funds or find jobs or seek employment that hasn't got continuity involved. So I think if you have the right person in place, and like Bianca said, in terms of that 3-month probation period for anyone, then you can find out if the person is right for the role, and if not, then you can, you know, find somebody else. So I think disability shouldn't really come into employment roles. I think it should be normalised that if there is a position in place, regardless of disability, then it should be long term.
What is the trajectory for a young person beyond a traditional short-term placement, would you say?
I think a lot of projects that we run involve transferable skills. So regardless of what their aspirations are, the jobs that are available, it doesn't matter as much. So time management, budgeting, strategizing projects, even creating projects as well. It gives them a wider spread as to what they might want to attain as a job later on down the line. So I think having a general overview provides quality transferable skills to our students.
I actually think the confidence is the key one. I think there's so many possible jobs that anyone can do just if they have the confidence to do so. You wouldn't believe how not having work experience makes you feel like you can't try anything, you're scared to fail, you're scared to speak up, you're scared to meet new people. Like, it is just the basis of everything. And I think that gives you the wings to
I agree.
Go on. Yeah.
It's the unknown, isn't it? Often with young people. I remember first starting my job and I was like, oh my gosh, I just don't know what
it's terrifying. Yeah,
you're in this new environment with all these new people with new systems.
Yeah.
And I remember logging onto my computer and being like, oh my gosh, you know, screen readers, what?
Yeah.
Like, it's suddenly working with a whole new bit of software that I haven't had at school. So
yeah, I think for most of our trainees, but I think people in general, I feel like the first 2 months are always just them getting to terms with the fact that if they do something wrong, they're not going to get yelled at.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, where has this come from? And they know that no matter if they're late, no matter whatever, you know, they know that they are safe enough to try different things. And they now know that in the next job that they go to, you know, I think sometimes their anxiety kicks in and it just creates these situations that will not actually happen in the real life, but because they've never tried it, how would they ever actually know? So I think that freedom and feeling a little bit more safe in what you're able to do and the others around you, I think gives you I don't know, just possibilities endless kind of thing.
Yeah, where do we get that from?
I think I think the knowledge-based experience allows you to adapt easier.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. How would you define an inclusive career opportunity, and what makes it genuinely inclusive rather than tokenistic?
I think what makes it inclusive is looking at the individual and not the disability, not kind of the background. It's looking at the individual and what support that they need and being as flexible as possible in making that happen. Whether it's at the beginning or 2 months in or 3, I don't know, just at any time, just being able to offer any support that individual needs, whether it's adapting the structure of the workplace, training other people, you know, it's just being completely flexible and adaptable to that person and what they think that support they need and what you think that you can offer, I think.
Yeah, I think case by case basis is the best way forward. It's you can have two individuals with a similar disability who could be completely different characters, completely different in terms of their personas and their ambitions. So I think that you have to base support mechanisms on the individual themselves and help them as much as possible, whether that's through written support, whether it's through practical guidance, but have them involved in the process as to what they want to achieve.
What do you think the government's role in ensuring these opportunities are possible?
I don't want to get in trouble. I would say that from my own perspective, knowing what your rights are is important. So don't be scared to confront or ask as to what your rights are. A lot of the stuff on Google you can find out for yourself these days, but finding out what your statutory rights are as a disabled individual, looking at the support that is available through the government, so particularly access to work funding. There's a whole plethora of services and funds that you can get through that specific fund, which if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be working at all. That I know for a fact.
I mean, in France, for example, depending on the certain size of a company, that company needs a certain percentage of people who are disabled, etc. And I think in the UK, it's quite shocking that that doesn't exist. Just coming up with a set kind of structure of set rules that companies need to adhere to, I think is kind of the best way.
What are the qualities you both look for in a diverse workforce?
In terms of staff members, I would say you can learn a lot more in terms of adaptability. So there's many of our tutors are extremely creative, but I think those that have impairments look at the world in a slightly different way sometimes. So there are ways they see things that I definitely don't, and I think having a varied opinion and varied insight into life just makes the world a better place.
Totally. I think the number one thing is just appreciating and people's differences and having to look and think in different ways. And I think it forces you, definitely me as the CEO, but also our team and our structure to be adaptable and flexible. And I'm not saying that it's easier, but I think the result that you get is better. And it's a little bit more human, because I think actually even just having someone in the team that has ADHD, like it actually just foments these like relationships and talking openly about, actually, if she says I struggle with timekeeping, that it's easier for me to talk about my chronic illness. And it's just like different things like that. So I think it's just opening up your mind to think differently and to approach problems in a different way. And I think adaptability and flexibility, what that does to your business in the long term is, you know, the best.
Seeing difference as a superpower. I know we all don't like the trope of like Daredevil being blind and different things, but I think it really is looking inside yourself and going, well, I'm just going to say what I need because, you know, there's going to be someone in here that isn't blind or isn't disabled that probably needs the same thing as me.
Exactly. But also why, like, I feel like with inclusivity, I feel like we tend to focus with people that have a disability or, you know, I think, but actually the things that you learn from creating an as inclusive workplace as possible actually benefits even just your other workforce. I think there's so many things that we can talk about, and actually we are all kind of the same. It's just like, let's open up that conversation. And I think that's kind of the best thing that it brings.
Bianca, John, thank you for speaking to me today. It was lovely to hear what you got to say.
Thank you so much.
Cheers, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us on our employability journey. We really hope that if you're an organisation, that this episode has motivated you to take the first step into the realm of employment opportunities for people with learning and access needs. Consider reaching out to organisations that already offer accessible employment opportunities, such as MenCap, a charity supporting individuals with learning disabilities and finding work, Pursuing Independent Paths, PIP, which empowers adults with learning disabilities or autism to achieve their ambitions. Action on Disability, which supports disabled people to have greater independence. And of course, don't miss out on Fair Shot Cafe, which not only offers internship programmes, but also D&I workshops to foster cultures of diversity, equity and inclusion, as well as delicious cakes and sandwiches. Additionally, support from entities like John Lyon's charity is vital. If you have experience, insights or opinions on what you've learned during this episode, then please follow John Lyon's charity on Instagram, X and LinkedIn, and let us know what you think.
Hi, my name's Anna Hoddenott and I'm the Senior Grants Manager at John Lyon's charity. I'm a white female and my pronouns are she, her. I'm wearing a bright pink top and black trousers and I have blonde shoulder-length hair. I would like to thank all of our guests today for contributing to this episode on careers and pathways for young people with learning access needs. I would also like to thank the trainees from Fair Shot who gave us their insights of working in a busy cafe in Covent Garden. John Lyon's charity is committed to providing more opportunities for young people to enter the world of work should they wish to do so, and particularly for young people with learning and access needs. We are calling for more employers to offer inclusive opportunities and join us on this journey. To find out more information about this internship initiative and other funds available from John Lyon's charity, please see our website www.jlc.london.